So, this is lecture 29 and we were discussing turbulent premixed combustion, and remember we were looking at a complicated diagram which shows the regimes of turbulent combustion. So, we will start from there and recollect what we had seen in the last class. Yeah, so this is the plot that we had. The x axis is turbulence Reynolds number, the y axis is Damkohler number, and we looked at two solid lines. The lower solid line which you see here is LO by delta L equal to 1, and the upper solid line is LK by delta L equal to 1. Between them, between these two lines is regime B, which is flamelet in eddies. So, this is an intermediate regime. The other two extreme regimes are wrinkle reaction sheets, which is marked with A, which is when LK is more than delta L, and on the other hand, on the other pole you will have distributed reactions regime, where the flame thickness is larger than even the largest of the turbulent flow length scales, which is LO, which is the integral length scale. Now, we discussed something about the wrinkle reaction sheet regime yesterday. So, today our plan will be to discuss little bit about the other regimes, flamelet in eddies and distributed reactions also. But before that, we will very quickly try to look at some example from the book. This is example 12.2, and this is, we will not go through the whole example because that book is with you and you can see the example in detail, but just to have an idea of what kind of numbers we might get for various quantities, like the turbulence intensity, like the chemical time scale, the flow time scale, etc. We will very quickly look at some basic aspects of this example 12.2. So, this example 12.2, it says estimate the Damkohler number and the ratio of the Kolmogorov length scale to the laminar flame thickness. So, that means it is asking us to estimate the Damkohler number and the ratio of the Kolmogorov length scale to the laminar flame thickness, that means LK by delta L, for conditions prevailing in the combustor of a utility class gas turbine engine. So, it is talking about a gas turbine engine where we want to find out the Damkohler number and LK by delta L, and what regime, based on these calculations, what is the regime that we are getting. So, the data that are given are unburned gas temperature of 650 Kelvin, 650 Kelvin is TU, the burned gas temperature of 2000 Kelvin, and the pressure is 15 atmosphere, pressure is 15 atmosphere. The mean velocity is 100 meters per second. So, there is a V bar, let us say, which is 100 meters per second, and the equivalence ratio is unity. The pressure of 15 atmosphere is quite realistic for a gas turbine engine. Fuel properties are those of isooctane. So, as if it is burning isooctane, and the combustion can diameter. So, it can have, the gas turbine combustion chamber can have arrangement of some cans where combustion is taking place. Okay. So, the combustion can diameter is 0.3 millimeter, 0.3 meter. And it says assume a relative turbulence intensity of 10%, relative turbulence intensity of 10%, relative turbulence intensity of 10%, and an integral scale which is 1/10 the can diameter. Can diameter is given, it is 0.3 meters, it is 0.3 meter. So, integral scale of 1/10 can diameter. Treat the fuel and air as essentially premixed. Okay. Again, as I said, we will not do the whole example, but just to get an idea, we need Damkohler number. So, to get this Damkohler number, what do we need? We need a tau flow and a tau chemical. That was yesterday, we discussed that. And tau flow is LO divided by V prime RMS. So, can tau flow be calculated? Do we know LO? Yes, it is 1/10 the can diameter. Can diameter is 0.3 meters. Do we know V prime RMS? It is 10% of, it is basically given as 10%. So, it is 10% of the mean velocity. The mean velocity is given as 100 meters per second. So, it is 10% of that. So, if you use all that, then you will be able to get tau flow as 3 milliseconds. All right. And what else can we do? To get Damkohler number, we also need tau chemical, right? We need tau chemical. And what was tau chemical? Remember what we did yesterday? Delta L by SL. Okay. So, this is delta L by SL. And from the information which is given in the problem, do you think we can get delta L and SL? Okay, so is the mixture defined? We have to ask that question. The mixture is defined in the sense that it says it's at 15 atmosphere, the fuel is isooctane, equivalence ratio is 1, the unbound gas temperature is given. So, pressure and unbound gas temperature is given, fuel and air are premixed, equivalence ratio is equal to 1, and the unbound gas temperature is given. The unbound gas temperature is 650 Kelvin. So, the mixture is defined. So, first you have to ask yourself whether the mixture is defined. So, if the mixture is defined, can we get delta L and SL? That is the next question. Can we get delta L and SL?
SL was from the equation of SL reference.
Yeah. So, SL has to be calculated at 15 atmosphere, and for isooctane there is a correlation available. So, we will use correlation of the form as you mentioned SL in terms of SL reference. So, all this please check out the details yourself. This is available in the book, flame speed correlations in Turns's book. So, this can be done. This gives you a value of 88.4 centimeter per second. Okay, this is a little bit high, but it is still in the of the order of a few centimeters per second. Okay. And how do you get delta? We can get delta by using this. So, you have to calculate alpha, and there is some appropriate temperature he has taken in this example. Again, you can look this up. In fact, in this problem he has taken the thermal diffusivity to be half of Tu plus Tb. Okay, this is not exactly consistent with what he had done in the laminar flame calculations which we had done previously. Okay. But in this problem he has taken it to be half of Tu plus Tb. Alright, we are not placing so much importance on very accurate values. So, he estimates thermal diffusivity at half of Tb plus Tu. Your Tb is 2000, Tu is 650. So, 2650 divided by 2, 1325 Kelvin. So, at 1325 Kelvin, he takes alpha to be that of air. See, it is a fuel air mixture, but it is mostly air. So, we have taken the properties to be that of air, and then he has got alpha as 1.7 10 to the power minus 5 meter squared per second, and correspondingly he has got delta L 2 alpha by SL. So, it is 3.85 10 to the power minus 3 meters. Okay. So, this is 3.85 into 10 to the power minus 5 actually, minus 5, not minus 3, 10 to the power minus 5 meters. So, which is approximately 0.039 millimeter, very small. Okay. course, do not place too much emphasis on the accuracy of these values. It can be more than this, less than this. Okay, so with the help of this, we can get a tau chemical, because now we have got delta L, we have also got SL. We got a tau chemical, and that tau chemical is this. I should write, because this gives you some idea, 0.0435 milliseconds. So the chemical time is of the order of millisecond. Remember, we did some chemical time calculation a while ago when we were doing chemical kinetics. Okay, for unimolecular reactions and for bimolecular reactions, we could get some expressions for tau chemical. So we could calculate that, and that was of the order of milliseconds. And with the help of all this, now we have got tau chemical, and we already had tau flow as 3 milliseconds. So utilizing these two, we can get Damkohler number as approximately 69. Okay. So if it is 69, then it's high, isn't it? What did we say about Damkohler number yesterday? That Damkohler number much greater than 1 is actually in the fast chemistry regime. So this you can see now, because you have numbers, you can see that flow time is 3 milliseconds, whereas the chemical time is 0.0435 milliseconds. So the chemistry is fast. Okay, so that's why Damkohler number is 69. And the other thing that we need to know, other thing that we can do is also we wanted to get Damkohler number, but we also wanted to get the Kolmogorov length scale and the laminar flame thickness, that ratio. Now we have the laminar flame thickness, we want to get the Kolmogorov length scale. Now one way of doing this is to calculate ReLO. Okay. So that is rho times V prime RMS LO divided by mu. Okay. So this quantity can be calculated. So this is what is the name for this? Have we seen this before? This quantity ReLO. We call it turbulence Reynolds number. Don't forget the S in Reynolds. Okay, it's not Reynolds, it's Reynolds. So so turbulence Reynolds number. I just wrote it yesterday in the form of V prime RMS LO divided by nu. So it's the same thing, right? And pressure is given. Temperatures are known, and in this problem he has used the Barndt gas temperature to calculate rho. So he has taken it to be the Barndt gas density. V prime RMS we have, isn't it? V prime RMS we have, because it's 10% turbulence intensity. So from that we can get other things. We can get LO also. LO is the integral length scale, which is 10% of the, which is 1/10 of the mean flow rate. So using all this, we can get ReLO as 11,477, and then we can go back to a plot like this. This is our plot. Okay. Or maybe I use the bigger one. Yeah. So the Reynolds number is about 11,000. Okay. Where is 11,000? This is 10,000. So it's more than that. And the Damkohler number is 69. Where is 69? Okay, when you calculate and you try to locate points on the graph, you realize that these scales are not linear scales, right? Okay, logarithmic scale. So this is 1, 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, like that. Okay, so our Damkohler number for this problem is 69, so it is somewhere over here, right? Okay, above. Okay, all right, that was 1. So this is 10, right? Above this. This is 10. This is 100. So somewhere over here. Okay, so we go like this and pick up 11,000. So you will see that it is kind of close to. It will be close to LK by delta L equal to 1. All right. If we go 11,000 from here and 69 from here, it will be somewhere close to LK by delta L equal to 1. So one way of doing this problem is to locate the point on the graph and say that roughly. See, this is roughly. If you actually take the graph and use the Darm-Kohler number value of 69 and the turbulence Reynolds number value of 11,477 is what we got, right. So, if we use this, then you can locate it more accurately, but this is roughly equal to 1. Okay. So, if that is the case, then it is at the boundary, somewhere at the boundary between the wrinkle reaction sheet regime and the flamelet in ADs regime. So, lot of practical combustion data, as I was telling you yesterday, engine data will fall in this, and this is more in the wrinkle reaction sheet regime and less in the flamelet in ADs regime. For the particular problem that we looked at, it is kind of at the borderline, okay, but our calculations are kind of simplistic. Okay. So, this is how we can locate data. So, we can utilize this graph for various kinds of problems to see in what kind of regime we are. Now, if we know the regime, and in most combustion situations, engine situations, we are more likely to get into wrinkle reaction sheet regime. And if you go to wrinkle reaction sheet regime, okay, so you have data, you have identified that you are in the wrinkle reaction sheet regime, then now we have a good thing going with us. That is, yesterday we got ST by SL in terms of various relations. So, we wrote 3 relations yesterday, isn't it? So, that was the first one was given by Darm-Kohler, the second one was by Clavin and Williams, and the third one was by Klimov, right. And depending on which one you want to use, Darm-Kohler's relation is actually very old. So, if you use Clavin and Williams or Klimov, you can just check what kind of turbulent burning velocity you can get. We know that we can, at least in some situations, we can calculate SL using these correlations. There are other methods of calculating SL also using more detailed computation. There are softwares which can calculate laminar burning velocity for you also. So, you specify the mixture and the software will be able to tell you the laminar burning velocity. So, those softwares employ conservation equations and they employ actually more detailed chemistry, a lot of detailed chemistry. In the approach that we took in the course, we just got laminar burning velocity one expression in terms of that m dot f triple prime bar, and that m dot f triple prime bar typically we just calculated based on a single step reaction. Okay. So, that was a simple thing that we could do in the class, but if you want to do a more detailed calculation and more accurate calculation, there are softwares which employ detailed chemical kinetics and which can give you more accurate values of laminar burning velocity. Okay, so we can get laminar burning velocity from somewhere, and if you have got laminar burning velocity, if you know V prime RMS, then using those relations which we saw yesterday, those 3, we can get turbulent burning velocity, and from the turbulent burning velocity we can also get the mass burning rate. That is if it is in the wrinkle reaction sheet regime. Okay. And that is the only regime that we have discussed so far. Now, before we go to the other 2 regimes, I just want to also give you a flavor of another 1 or 2 problems which will give you some idea of how some simple calculations can be done for turbulent premix flames. So, let us say we have a situation that we have a rectangular duct. So, this is a rectangular duct, and we have a circular rod here. So, this is a rod, that means it is going into the plane of the paper, okay. And we have some flow entering the duct. This is not circular, this is rectangular. Okay. So, what this does is it can set up this velocity. If this velocity is high, and then you get a turbulent premix flame, fuel air mixture coming with a high velocity, then you can get a flame which looks like this. It has this kind of a corrugated shape. Now, in a particular problem which is given in the list of problems in the book, it says that the included angle of this V shaped flame, this is a V shaped flame, right, that is 11.4 degree. The angle is 11.4 degree. Now, if this velocity, this is called the approach velocity, if this is uniform approach velocity of 50 meters per second, estimate the turbulent burning velocity. So, we want to know what is ST. Okay. This is a simple enough problem, but I still thought I will show it to you. It has some certain things to learn from. So, a duct is like this. There is a flow coming into this, and the flame actually is something like this, but it of course it goes in this direction also. Okay. So, how do we get ST? We have to get ST. So, this ST we can obtain if we measure the unburned gas velocity going into the flame, but I told you a couple of times yesterday that that is not an easy thing to do, that is not something which we try to do either. So, what was an easier option? That we write ST as m dot divided by rho u into some kind of an averaged area. Okay. So, this is a smoothed area. All right. Time averaged. Average means time averaged. The instantaneous area is different. Instantaneous area is different from the time averaged area, and then instantaneous area also keeps changing as a function of time. It is always fluctuating, right. So, if we want to do this problem, then maybe we can take the average area as like this. Okay. In other words, we make the area look like this. Of course, there is a dimension like this, another. Okay. So, we make it smooth like this, and this we call an average area. So, that means the instantaneous area is the average area plus all these wrinkles added to it, right. So, this is a wrinkle, this is a wrinkle, this is a wrinkle, like that. All these added to the average area will give you the area of the flamelet. But we want to work with A bar. Okay. We want to work with A bar in the definition of turbulent burning velocity, right. You may say that A bar is not the area where combustion is taking place, but A bar is used in the definition of turbulent burning velocity. Okay. If we wanted to use the entire flamelet area, then we can use A flamelets multiplied by rho u and multiply that by which burning velocity? I think I briefly mentioned that in response to your question yesterday, when we were discussing the Dahm-Kohler model. So, if we use A flamelets, then we can use SL, right, we can use SL. So, SL is associated with A flamelets and ST is associated with A bar, which is the averaged flame area. Now, which area is larger? A flamelets. So, which velocity is larger? The turbulent burning velocity, because to get the turbulent burning velocity you are using the smooth time averaged area, which is actually smaller, right. So, this will give you a higher value of turbulent burning velocity than the laminar burning velocity. So, we do not want to use A flamelets and SL, because that is a hard thing to do. Okay, how do you know A flamelets? Very hard thing to do. So, we will use this. So, that A bar will be the simple area of the wedge. Okay, this is a sharp properly defined wedge without the wrinkles added on it. So, we can do that. So, if we do that, we can get m dot, because this velocity is given to be 50 meters per second, and we know the duct dimensions. We can use the unburned gas mixture density. So, rho u into area into this velocity, we can get m dot. So, we can get m dot, we can get density, we can get the area from the wedge, proper wedge, and then we can get ST. Okay. So, this is how these problems are tackled. So, this is just to give you an idea of how we take this area. Now, the other thing that I would like to mention is that here we have something, right. What do we have? we have a rod. We have a rod. So we have a cylinder, right? So we have this duct in which we have kept this rod somehow, maybe hanging in there, and the flow is approaching here, and the rod is doing something. What is it doing? Yeah.
The angle which you mentioned, sir, that was a half cone angle or the complete?
That was the entire. This is a V-shaped flame, so this whole thing was 11.4 degrees. Okay. So what I was saying is that we have the rod for some reason, isn't it? What does the reason seem to be? It's anchoring the flame, isn't it? And if you don't place anything here, there, then you just have a flowing mixture of fuel and air. Of course, if you can ignite it, but if you ignite it, do you think the flame will remain at one place? No. Maybe in exceptional situation, but not usually, right? So the rod is actually stabilizing the flame. Okay, and there are various ways of stabilizing these flames, turbulent premix flames. So this is just one example. This is called a bluff body stabilization. So this is a bluff body stabilization. Now a rod is a bluff body, isn't it? So we are going back to fluid mechanics, right? So it's not a streamlined body. A rod is not a streamlined body. Okay. And if you place a bluff body like this, then it sets up a recirculation pattern just ahead of it. Okay. So around this region, it sets up a recirculation pattern. Actually, there is a photograph in the book which shows this quite nicely, but today we had some difficulties with the computer, so I couldn't show you that one. So you have the flame set up here, and in this region there will be a recirculation zone, and that recirculation zone will consist of combustion products. So there is flame, there is burning taking place, and because of the recirculation, the combustion products are kind of stuck out there, and they give you sort of an uniform composition of product gases and high temperature. So it helps heat the incoming mixture. So there is this mixture coming like this, and there is a recirculation zone which is a source of heat, right? So it heats up the incoming mixture and helps its reaction rate to pick up and get stabilized on the rod. Okay, so this is called bluff body stabilization. We are not discussing actually turbulent flame stabilization in detail, but I just took one example. So there are other methods of stabilizing flames in various kinds of situations. Flame stabilization is an important issue because let's say in a gas turbine, if the flame doesn't get stabilized, if it moves, then there is problem. There's a huge problem, right? You have to be able to stabilize it. So this is one situation. Yeah.
This problem, that A bar should be taken normal to that velocity, right? So it should be A bar sin theta.
A bar is the area through which this ST is getting burned, no? So A bar will have to be the full area.
So it's
Okay.
not like negative burning velocity, that it should be normal to stuff like that.
No, it's actually the flame area. Okay, so the flame area will mean this multiplied by this, the dimension perpendicular. Okay. And will you get an angle, half cone angle here, or half wedge angle here? If you do that, will you get the half that angle also? Will you get an angle if you do this area? If you take area like this area, all this is the area on which that m dot is coming, right? So will you get a alpha somewhere? If we call this alpha, if we call the half wedge angle alpha, will you get alpha?
So if we project the area normal to the mass flow rate, then we'll be getting alpha.
We will be getting alpha. So effectively we will get alpha when we write A bar, because if we call this L, for example, this is alpha and this is maybe h by 2. See, this is h, right? So sin alpha, maybe I should draw it better. This is L, this is h by 2, right? This is alpha, let us call this one alpha. So, this alpha is in this particular problem is 11.4 divided by 2. Okay. So, the sine alpha is h by 2 divided by L. Okay. So, L is h by 2 sine alpha, and if you utilize that in the area calculation, then the sine alpha will show up, right. So, in the laminar flame discussion, when we got V SL equal to V sine alpha, what was the area? I mean, did we write area? Or we directly wrote in terms of velocities. Okay, but if you want to write it in terms of m dot equal to rho u into some area into laminar burning velocity, which area should you write? Which area will give you that sine alpha? I think that relates to your question. Which area? No, Pushan's question was the following. Pushan was saying that should we just take A bar, okay, A bar meaning this area, or should we take area which is like projected area, isn't it? So, in this, so that we understood if we use this, then the area, this area will also give that sine alpha. So, what I was asking Pushan is that when we got SL equal to VU sine alpha in that laminar conical premixed flame, okay, we of course we directly wrote in class, we directly wrote SL equal to VU sine alpha, okay, using the argument that the normal component of the unburnt velocity going into the flame is actually SL, right. But if you want to write, if you want to do that same conical premixed flame, laminar conical premixed flame, in terms of, let us say, writing m dot equal to SL into rho u into some area, which area should you write? Okay. They should be compatible. No, finally you should get SL equal to VU sine alpha.
It should be slanted area only because the flame is, the fuel is going to perpendicular to that.
Yeah. So, that is the area which is accepting m dot, isn't it? All right. So, this was another example. So, this is problem 12.2 of the book, problem not example 12.2. And very quickly we will just also mention another problem here, that is here in this case you have a 25 millimeter diameter duct. So, now this is a circular duct, 25 millimeter diameter, a circular duct, and in that circular duct we have a pipe with 2 millimeter diameter located coannularly. That means the axis of this and the axis of the bigger duct, they coincide, right, and then you get a flame which will be, averaged view of that will be that of a truncated cone. Okay. So, you get a flame which will terminate at the wall. Of course, it has to terminate at the wall, no, because it gets quenched at the wall. So, it's like this. So, I am drawing this straight line here, this straight line here to indicate this is the averaged kind of situation that you have. So, this is 2 mm and this is 25 mm, and the flow rate through the duct is 0.03 kg per second, and unburnt mixture is at 310 Kelvin, 1 atmosphere is pressure, and molecular weight is also given of the unburnt mixture like this. So, you are asked to find the length of the flame zone. So, what is L? To find the length of the flame zone. Okay. So, I told you certain things are given, and we want to find out length. And again, we are not going to spend this is lecture, so we will not do problems fully, of course. But very quickly, can you tell me what the approach should be?
The SL can be found out through TU and pressure relationship.
SL. Okay.
SL reference.
Now, is the fuel mentioned? That's the problem. If the fuel is not mentioned, then we will not be able to use a correlation or even a software to get SL. Correct? So, where will L come from? L will come if we can determine the area. Okay. And where will area come from? So, pretty simple actually. ST is again m dot divided by rho u a bar. So, can you calculate rho u? Yes, we can calculate rho u because the unburnt mixture is defined but for the fuel. It does not say which fuel, but it gives you the molecular weight, it gives you the unburnt temperature, which is 310 Kelvin, it gives you the pressure. So, you can get rho u. M dot is given, isn't it? M dot is 0.03 kg per second. So, we can get rho u, and we have m dot, and actually in this problem ST is also given. Okay, without that you cannot do. All right. So, your approach was correct in the sense that you were thinking of first calculating SL and then using something to get ST. But since we do not know the fuel, ST has to be given. So, ST is also given. ST is given as 5 meters per second. If ST is given as 5 meters per second, then m dot ST is known, m dot is known, rho u you can calculate, you can ST is given. So, I told that later, and I wanted you to think about it, and you are on the right track saying that first you will calculate SL and all that, but since we do not know the fuel, that would not have given us everything, would not have given us ST. So, and you need V prime RMS also to get ST. So, that information is not given. So, ST is also given. ST is also given, m dot is given, rho u you can calculate. So, you can get A bar, and once you get A bar, remember this is a truncated cone, isn't it? So, you have to think about how to get L from the truncated cone geometry. So, then your job is done, right. So, this is the situation. So, these problems are mostly like that, and note that here we are not using a great deal of theory that we developed. We are just using ST equal to m dot divided by rho u A bar, and we are estimating area from the geometry, okay, estimating A bar from the geometry and things like that. But in some cases there may be some other problems which we would like to solve, where you have to locate the regime like what we did today morning, the first thing. Okay, you locate the regime, and then if it is in the wrinkled reaction sheet regime, then you can calculate, provided you know V prime RMS, provided you can calculate SL, then you can get ST from there also. Okay. So, there may be some situations that you can you know m dot and you can calculate ST from regime identification, from that you can get the area, something like that is also possible. Okay. All right. So, coming back to this, we have two more regimes. So, one is flamelet in eddies, another is distributed reaction zone. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics of some of these? We have flamelet in eddies regime, flamelets in eddies. what we understand is that, okay, this is our regime diagram, Damkohler number versus turbulence Reynolds number, and remember this is a log scale, this is a log scale, this is Damkohler number equal to 1, and looking at this part is called B, this is the Flamelet-in-Eddies regime. So, you are more likely to be in the Flamelet-in-Eddies regime if your V prime RMS is somewhat large. I mean, this V prime RMS, this value is 10 to the power 4. Okay. So, if you have V prime RMS less than, not V prime RMS, I mean the turbulence Reynolds number. If the turbulence Reynolds number is less than 10 to the power 4, okay, then you have to have, then you can still be in Flamelet-in-Eddies regime if the Damkohler number is within this region. Okay. But even for low Damkohler number, if you have high turbulence Reynolds number, then you will be in regime B. And we also see that if turbulence Reynolds number is quite high, then for significantly large Damkohler number also, you are in the Flamelet-in-Eddies regime. Whereas the engine combustion regime is more in, again I am drawing it approximately, you should look up the plot that we are referring to, the original plot. So, so a lot of engine data is around here. So, some data are in the Flamelet-in-Eddies regime also. So, the Flamelet-in-Eddies regime corresponds to, we can say, moderate Damkohler number. Okay. If the Damkohler number is too low, then you are probably in the distributed reaction regime. So, that is C, and if the Damkohler number is really high, you will end up going above this line, above this particular line. So, you will end up being in the wrinkled reaction sheet regime. So, this is for moderate Damkohler number, and also this is typically for high turbulence intensity, that is V prime RMS divided by SL much greater than 1. Okay. So, high V prime RMS will make sure that you are kind of in the high turbulence Reynolds number range, and if you are in the higher turbulence Reynolds number range, then you are more likely to get into regime B, even if your Damkohler number is somewhat higher. Okay. Also, if you have high V prime RMS, then it will tend to reduce your Damkohler number. Damkohler number we wrote, what is the Damkohler number expression that we have? We have this as the Damkohler number. So, if V prime RMS by SL is kind of large, then the Damkohler number cannot be too high, and if the Damkohler number is not too high, then also you are likely to be in regime B. Okay. So, what we have understood so far is that wrinkled reaction sheet, that is regime A, is most important for practical combustion, but B is also cannot be neglected. Now, what about regime C? What do we understand about distributed reaction regime? So, in that we know that LO by delta L is less than 1. Okay. So, we are looking at this corner, right. C, and this line is LO by delta L equal to 1. LO by delta L has to be less than 1, and Damkohler number is less than 1. So, we understand that to get all this, LO must be small. LO is the integral length scale. So, this has to be small, and V prime RMS must be large. So, how does it help? Damkohler number is this. So, if you have high V prime RMS and low LO, then the Damkohler number will be smaller, and if the Damkohler number is smaller, then you are more likely to be in regime C. So, what about LO? LO is the integral length scale, which is the largest possible length scale in turbulent flow, and that will be smaller if we are talking about a situation when there is a flow in a duct and there is a flame or there is some reaction taking place. If the duct is small, we expect LO to be small. So, the small duct size will limit the integral length scale, the largest size of turbulence. So, if you have small duct and if you have large velocities, you are likely to get distributed reaction regime. Okay. Small duct size will ensure that LO is small, and if you have large velocities with a lot of disturbance, then V prime RMS will be high. But this regime is actually, having said all that, this regime is also dependent on chemical reaction part, isn't it? Because remember that Damkohler number is flow time divided by chemical time. We understand that small Damkohler number is likely to give you distributed reaction regime, and small Damkohler number will mean large chemical time. Okay. So, I mentioned this yesterday also, I think large chemical time is more likely for pollutant formation reactions. So, for combustion reactions, distributed reaction regime does not really happen much. Okay. It is kind of not very probable. If you have pollutant formation reactions, I was mentioning that okay, maybe you have nitric oxide formation reaction or something else. Those pollutant formation reactions are typically much slower than combustion reactions. Hydrocarbon combustion reactions will give you small value of chemical time scale, okay, and the Damkohler number will typically be large. If you have pollutant formation reactions, the chemical time scales are larger, small Damkohler number, and physically it also means that your reaction zone thickness will be large. Pollutant formation reactions are slow reactions will give you expanded reaction zones, and that will give you large value of delta L. We are still calling it delta L like in flame, but it may not even be a flame, it may be a pollutant formation reaction. But this may be your delta L may look like this, and all the turbulent length scales, whichever scale you get at different places, they are all going to be smaller than delta L. So, now turbulence can enter the reaction zone thickness. Let us not call it flame zone thickness, because it may not be flame after all, and it can come inside the reaction zone thickness and affect the processes here. So, this is how distributed reaction regime is different from wrinkled reaction sheet regime. So, what I was telling you yesterday is that in case of the wrinkled reaction sheet regime, the flame itself is thin. So, the reaction zone is thin. So, this delta L is thin. So, turbulence cannot enter the reaction zone, and turbulence cannot really affect the processes happening in the reaction zone effectively. So, it ends up just convoluting the flame dimension. So, it basically makes it a wrinkled flame. So, this was the idea of the whole thing. So, just summing up, we have said that first of all, more turbulent premix flames are more important, much more important than laminar premix flames. Laminar premix flames also have their importance in some heating applications, but turbulent premix flames are much more important. That is one. But we also said that this is more complicated, right, and so complicated that you cannot really do a theory from first principles and derive equations and solve and be happy with that. Especially in a class, there is not a great deal of analysis that can be done with turbulent premix flames. more complicated. So, the more important thing we studied in less number of lectures, and we said that our approach is more phenomenological and empirical. The main thing we studied here is the regime diagram. The regime diagram that we saw, that actually keeps getting modified a little bit also. There is some data added, some lines are drawn again, things like that. And some version of this regime diagram is also known in the combustion literature as Borghi diagram, by the name of a researcher, Borghi. And from the regime diagram, we can identify for your particular combustion application what are the 3 possible regimes. I said that for practical combustion applications, wrinkled reaction sheet regime is more likely. Flammability in ADs is also important. Okay. And the other thing that we spoke about is that ST, at least for some cases, we can calculate. Okay. ST calculation is possible. Apart from that, when we took the phenomenological approach, we said that ST determination is little difficult, okay, but we write ST in terms of an averaged out area, and we have ST calculation based on essentially correlations. Okay. Let us also remember this, that typically there are two broad situations that you can identify, that when you have turbulent premix flames, maybe the flame is like on a burner and that is an open flame. So, you can have open flame. So, this is one sort of situation. So, in an open flame, people have typically seen that the presence of the flame does not change the turbulence parameters of the flow that is coming out from the burner. In other words, suppose you have one situation when there is no flame and there is a mixture coming out from here, you have not ignited. So, it has some turbulence characteristic, length scales, turbulence intensity and all that. If you ignite it, those quantities do not get changed much. Okay. So, that is one piece of information important to remember. And the other kind of situation that we can have is a closed flame, that is flamed in a chamber. Flame in a chamber. So, one example which we of course all are familiar with is that we get a flame here, the difference between this and this is now we have a flame. So, this SI engine application, this is the turbulent premix flame, this has a flame which will keep moving, there is no question of anchoring it, because you do not want it to be anchored, you want it to move, right. And for SI engine applications, if you are familiar with IC engine textbooks, ST calculation is done, the turbulent burning velocity calculation is done with the help of laminar burning velocity and V prime RMS. And once you have ST, you can get m dot for SI engine combustion situation, and m dot is important because m dot is related to engine power. Okay. So, with this we will stop discussion of turbulent premixed combustion. Next class we will start talking about non-premixed flames. So, just as we had discussed laminar premixed flames and turbulent premixed flames, very soon we will be discussing laminar non-premixed flames and turbulent non-premixed flames. Okay. So, we will close here. Thank you.